Hello everybody. So now we will speak about the Windows 29 security. Okay, so best practice about security. So the first thing, of course, is the user rights. So it is very important to follow the principle of least privilege. This means granting user only the rights and privilege they need to perform the task and no more. As a result, if an unauthorized user compromises an account, they gain access only to the limited set of privileges assigned to that account. Okay, so IT staff should also separate account for day-to-day activity, such as answering email, for example, separate from privileged account used to perform admin tasks. So let's see all the settings that you have here in user right. Okay, this is very important. Okay, so let's discover the setting, of course, and of course the account security here. Okay, so first of all, we'll discover some of the user rights that is very important, of course, when you set up your setting in the security part in the Active Directory domain controller. So let's jump directly in the setting. Okay, so I'm on VMware. I'm going to go on my DC and we'll see some of this setting here. Okay, so I will go directly on my DC, and user right is very important because you have so many settings. So it's a good start to see all the settings that you have. Okay, so I'm going to connect to my DC directly. So all the settings you have it in group policy. Okay, the default domain policy is very important. Okay, so let's see some of the settings we have. Let's go directly to our policy here. Let's go to Windows setting. Let's go on security setting. And here you have so many security settings here, okay? We're not going to go on each of them, but I'm just going to show you what you have here, okay? You have account policy, okay? This is password policy about the password on your domain here. For example, we say that the password must be 7-character minimum, that he will return 24 passwords, so we'll not be able to set up a password in this list, and also the account local policy. Okay, for example, you have 5 invalid login attempts. After 5, you will be locked for 30 minutes, for example. Here's the Kerberos policy. This is for Kerberos, and let's go jump directly to my user right assignment. Okay, so the first one here we have is Access Credential Manager as a trusted caller. Okay, so it's used by Credential Manager during backup and restore. You should not assign this privilege to user account. After you have accessed this computer from the network, so it will determine which user and group can connect to the computer from the network. This right does not affect remote desktop services. You have act as part of the operating system. It's allow a process to impersonate a user without authentication. You typically would assign the local system account that process that require this privilege. Add workstation to domain here. Allow you to join workstation to the domain. You have adjust memory quota for a process. It will determine which security principal can adjust the maximum amount of memory assigned to a process. Allow login locally. This is very important, okay? It will determine which user can sign in locally to a computer. Alter this policy on previous access workstation to remove members of the user group as a way of limiting which account can sign in to a computer. By default, any authenticated user can sign in to any workstation or server except for a domain controller, which is limited to members of certain group. You have also the allow logon through remote desktop services. It will determine which user and groups can sign in remotely by using a remote desktop services connection. You have backup files and directory. Wow, this one is important. It gives permission to backup file, directory, registry, and other objects to which user normally would not have permission. If you assign this right, it gives indirect access to all data on the computer because the person with that right can back up and then recover it, an environment over which they have complete control. You have also bypass traverse checking. It's allow user with this right to traverse directory on which they don't have permission. Wow. So it does not allow the user to list the content of that directory through. You have changed the time zone. This is very important. Okay, so it allows the user with this right to alter the system time, which is separate from the time zone. You have also changed the time zone here. So it's allow user with this right to alter the time zone, but not the system right. You have create a page file. So it's allow user with this right to create and modify a page file. You have create a token object. So it's determine which user account and process can use to create token that allow access to local resources. You should not assign this right to any user. You don't want to have complete system control because you can use it to leverage local admin privilege. You have create global object here. So it will determine which user account can create global objects that are available to all sessions. You should not assign this right to any user you don't want to give complete system control because they can use it to leverage local admin privilege. Wow. You have create permanent shared object. It will determine which user account can create directory object by using the object manager. You have debug program here. So it will determine which user account can attach a debugger to process within the operating system. Only dev guy who are writing new system component requires this ability. You have deny access to this computer from the network. It will block specified user group from accessing this computer from the network. This setting overrides the policy that allows access from the network. You have deny logon as a batch job. This is very known, okay? So it blocks specified user and groups from signing in a batch job, and this overrides the signing as a batch job policy. You have also deny logon as a service. This is important, okay? Because it blocks service account from registering a process as a service. And this policy overrides the signing as a service policy. However, it doesn't apply to local system, local service, or network service account. You have deny logon locally. It blocks account from signing locally. This policy overrides the allow signing local policy. Here is deny from remote desktop services. It's block account from signing by using remote desktop services. And this policy overrides the allow signing through remote desktop policy. You have this one. It's enable computer and user account to be trusted for delegation. Determine whether you can configure a truster for delegation setting on a user or computer object. Force shutdown from a remote system. User assigned this right can shut down computer from remote network location. You have generate security audits. It will determine which account process can use to add item to the security log. Woo! Because this right allows interaction with the security log, it prevents a security risk when you assign this to user account. And we have all the other, of course, we're not going to go on all the other here, but you have, of course, other here setting, like for example, signing as a batch job. User with account that have this permission can sign to a computer through a batch queue facility, and this right is only relevant to older version of the Windows operating system. And signing as a service. This one is important because it allows security principle to signing as a service. You need to assign this right when a service that you configure to use a user account rather than one of the built-in service account. And this one. Okay, I had an issue with this one, because manage auditing and security log, okay? User assigned this right can configure object access auditing option for resources such as file, and user assigned this right can also review event in the security log and clear the security log. So this can be a problem. Because unauthorized users are likely to clear the security log as a way of hiding the tracks, you should not assign this right to user account to which you would not assign local admin permission on the computer. And we have other here, okay? So just, of course, each time you go on one of these settings, you can go and explain. And here you have the explanation I'm just doing actually. Okay. So you can see, there's so many user right assignment. And you have also all the security options. We're not going to go in here also, but okay, this is also very important, okay? For example, do not require Ctrl-Alt-L, don't display last sign-in, this is important also. Don't display username, machine account lockout, machine activity limit also. Okay, and you have all the other one like event log, restricted group to create group on all your computer. You have the system service, so you can say, okay, I want this service to be started automatically. You have the registry here to add registry setting remotely, and the file system here. You have also all policy about Warren, Windows Defender firewall, public key policy, and software restriction, app blocker. App blocker is the new one, okay? Because app blocker is replacing SRP. This one on Windows XP, okay? So don't use it anymore. App blocker is very known, okay? Maybe you have shown that in Windows 10, okay, computer. It's to block some application, okay? So this is the security part, okay? Security setting here. You can even import a policy if you want that you find somewhere, or you create a new, imagine you have a company who create for you a policy, you can import it and it will override all the setting here. This is a very good solution also. Okay, so you see that you have a lot of setting here. It's a big work, okay? You have also here the information about of course an account here, because often you will maybe change it, okay? Remember that if you go here on one of your users here, let's go on Muriel, and if you go on account here, you have a lot of way. First of all, you have the login hours. So you can use this setting to configure one user can use an account here, okay? You just have to select here the login hours. Login workstation, okay? Also, login workstation is to log on to is you can use this setting to limit the computers an account can sign in to. You have password never expire, okay? So you should never configure this option for privileged account because it will exempt the account from the domain policy password. You have also smart card here. So if you go just a little down, you have smart card is required. So in high security environment, you can enable this option to ensure that only an authorized person that has both the smart card and the account credential can use the privileged account. You have account is sensitive and cannot be delegated. When you enable this option, you ensure that trusted application cannot forward an account credential to other services or computer on the network. You should enable this setting for high privilege account. Okay, and we have other here also setting that you can see here, like for example, DES here, encryption type. So this option, for example, configure an account to use only DES encryption, data encryption standard, which is a weaker form of encryption than advanced encryption standard IES. You should not configure this option on a secure network, for example. And you have also account expire if you want to make this account expire automatically. Cool. So we just finished the Windows security, and in the next video I will talk about this protected user group. Okay, it can be very interesting. So see you in the next lecture. Ciao.